What's up, chum? Sharky here, and welcome back to the Shark Bites podcast.
Hello.
Oh yeah, I forgot you were here.
Thanks for already forgetting about me.
I have not been able to think clearly for the last 4 days.
Oh?
I think this week has been probably the craziest week in my entire life.
What's made it such a crazy week?
So, I think I mentioned. Did we do a podcast last week? Or was it the week before that?
I think it was last week. I don't know, that was too long
remember.
ago.
It was. I can't remember. But, so I think I mentioned on here at one point that I was trying to get my passport. And my appointment was yesterday. So, I don't even know where to begin with this. Let me start with the work stuff first, because that I was already on edge because of that. So I also mentioned, I think last week or whenever, that this week was kind of big because we had, I think, like 3 people from our New York office coming to my work, and 2 of them are like big bosses. So I knew that ahead of time, but it was making me like super nervous about it.
Yeah.
I've only worked there for about a year now. So there's still stuff that I'm always learning on a daily basis. But I was really nervous because I'd only met the bosses like a handful of times before. And it was always like in passing, like we never really got to talk much.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really sure like what they were looking for or like why they were coming. But I just want to say like it was all good stuff. Like nothing bad happened, but I swear like this entire week I've been holding my breath. Like I feel like today was the first day I actually got to breathe. Cuz they left today. Like this evening they left.
They're no longer breathing down your neck.
Yeah. So like all week they've been like having meetings and watching us work and asking us questions and it I understand like the point of what they're doing. Like they're trying to see the improvements that we've made since the last time that they were there because we had a new manager, we got like a bunch of new equipment and moved everything around like in our office, and they were mostly just looking at that. They weren't necessarily like, you know, quizzing us on how to do everything. So it's just been like literally just a lot of pressure the last couple days. And I had to leave early yesterday because I was going to get my passport. So if those of you listening don't know how any of that works, basically you have to have a bunch of things in advance, like documents prepared in advance. You have to have like your birth certificate and your driver's license and a copy of both of those, and then you have to have like in some cases you have to have a photo ready to go that has to be a certain size. You can't wear glasses, you can't have hats, or like they're very specific about how they want it to look. And I had spent the last week preparing all of that stuff, and I finally went in yesterday. And let me just say, did not go how I thought it was going to go at all. Like, I guess in my mind, I thought that it was going to be way more, I guess, private or like confidential, but it was so not that way.
Oh?
So think of it basically like the DMV when you get a new license. We all love the DMV, don't we?
Oh, yeah. My favorite place. I just go there on Saturdays for fun.
So
No, that place sucks.
when I got my passport at a post office. You don't always have to go to a post office though. You can actually go to a public library. Like if it's like a big library, they usually let you do that as well, which I didn't know until I looked it up. But it's by appointment. So I think I mentioned on another podcast episode that I had been trying to get an appointment for like a month, 2 months, something like that, and I finally got one for this week. But just the amount of time that it took, and then all the preparation of the documents I had to do, and making sure I had everything, and then I just sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes, like just waiting to go in, which this is kind of a segue into our topic today. But I was really nervous, and I feel like I was nervous for no reason, but I'll get into that in a second. So I have all my stuff, and I walk in there, and I see a big sign that says passport line, and I'm like, okay, there's no one in that line. There was like one lady in the corner, but I couldn't really tell if she was like in line or not. So it turns out she was. She was ahead of me. But she did not speak English. So she was waiting for someone like from the back to come up to the front to translate for her with the postal worker or whatever. And meanwhile, like there's people shipping packages and like, mailing stuff as usual. The post office, how busy it is all the time. And
Just the normal post office stuff.
I probably stood there for like I I don't even know. I want to say like 30 minutes. I stood there. And here's the kicker. This kind of irked me. On the receipt that they give you for your appointment that says like, like how much the application fee is and like what time your appointment's at and which location, blah blah blah. It says please arrive 10 minutes early to your appointment. Now, I have anxiety, so I always show up 30 minutes early to everything, but I did wait until at least like 15 minutes before just to be sure. Um, and I walk in there and I'm standing there, and it is literally, I think it was like 1:35, so 10 minutes before my appointment, and the lady at the counter looks at me. She's like, "What time is your appointment?" And I'm like, 1:45, and she goes, "You're a little bit early." I'm like, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything. I didn't say anything, but I was like, "It says on the thing to show up early. What do you mean?" And she's like, "Just wait like a few more minutes." And I'm like, "Okay, like where else am I going to go? I have to get this done today." So I'm standing there, and another lady comes in who like has a very thick like Spanish accent, and she's asking me questions about the passport line, and I'm like, "This is my first time here. They told me to wait here. Like I don't even know like where I'm supposed to go." And she's like, "Oh, okay, okay." Cuz she was there for her passport and she was asking me stuff, and I'm like, "I don't know." So I get up to the counter, the lady finally shows up, and I go to the counter, and it was really, really fast. Like she was going faster than I could pull documents out of the folder that I brought. I, I
Jeez.
was like, I was fumbling with stuff. I felt like people were watching me behind me, like in line, because I was like really sweaty and like freaking out because it was hot in the post office and stuff. And so I'm like pulling out all these documents and putting them on the counter. And I mean, I thought it would be like, they take you in a room, they walk you through like your form and might ask you a couple questions. It really wasn't like that. It was very like routine, like quick post office action, if that makes any sense. Like once you get to the counter, they say a bunch of stuff and you didn't hear any of it. That's kind of how it was, if you've ever had that experience.
Oh, wow.
But I was just like, okay, what do you need first? She's like, give me the form. And I'm like, okay. So I pull that out. And then I'm like, I'm pulling out my ID and my birth certificate. And I was really nervous about the birth certificate because that's the only, like, official, like, certified copy that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And she just, like, stapled it to my form. And I was like, okay.
Jeez.
I mean, that thing's as old as I am. It's kind of delicate. Like, be careful.
It's
But
old. Treat it with some
I
respect.
mean, this thing had like creases and stuff on it. I'm like, it be gentle, like it's fragile. But yeah, and then like you have to have a check for the US Department of State, which I already had that filled out in advance, so that made that go pretty quickly, but she was just going faster than my brain could catch up
I'm
with.
gonna guess she had that ugh, come on, just give me the papers attitude, right?
Mhm.
Of course.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hold on, lady. Like, just give me a second. I have all my stuff. I just need a second to get it out of the dang folder. But it went okay though. I mean, nothing was suspicious. All my information was correct, and she stamped it and gave me a receipt. And like, okay, thank you. It'll be there. It'll be at your house in like 7 to 9 weeks. I'm like, okay, great. Bye.
Fingers crossed that the postal system doesn't lose it.
Yeah, she just kind of like stapled it together, stamped it, and then threw it into a bin under the counter. I was like, okay, sure. This is how we do things here at the post office.
I mean, it checks out.
Yeah, so I turned around and like started to leave, and I just like exhaled. I was like, good grief. But I was
Yeah.
so happy I didn't have to go back to work because I ended up taking the rest of the day off.
Yeah, I don't think I would have mentally been able to deal with work after that.
Well, and especially because, like, it was already a crazy week at work, and I didn't want to go back into that after what, after the post office experience. I was like, I just want to go home and go to bed. Like, I don't want to do anything else today.
Yeah.
So, I guess that if you, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. So, our topic is anxiety, but I wanted to ask you first, how was your week?
I've not killed anyone yet,
Oh,
so
Lord.
I'm assuming that means good.
Did
No.
something happen?
You wanna know what gives me anxiety?
What?
When I have to go to flippin' Carbondale to the hospital there, and because my grandpa had an appointment. So I'm already just like driving in Carbondale traffic because there's all these stupid one ways that are poorly labeled, wanting to make sure that I don't somehow turn into oncoming traffic.
We had a lot of those in Illinois.
And but getting to the hospital easy. I get in there and fine. Fine. So, but the parking lot. So they have this one thing where it's like I don't want to call it a parking garage, but I guess that's where it's like the different levels.
Hmm.
I hate those.
Me
And
too.
my poor grandfather would not have been able to walk across one and down all those steps. He wouldn't have
Hmm.
been able to.
Because
This
there's no
man's like,
spots on the ground floor. Like, you have to go to the next
no,
level.
no. So okay, so the very first row in the parking lot that's not for this one building that's next to the emergency room. So it's not a part of any of those parking. This is like for when you go into like because inside they've got like like spinal and brain, urology, those different
Hmm.
offices you go to. So this is like the parking for that area. And then to the left is a little bit more, and then you can go into the parking garage. So the first, like you got where cars face the building, and then on the other side, they face the other way. And then you've got like another section behind it where the ones facing the building. So all those three rows are handicap,
Hmm.
which makes sense. No problem there. And I'm circling through. And I'm going through. There's like 4 rows for me to go through. And 30 minutes, I am not finding parking. And a car goes to pull out, and I have to like turn my car around so I can get to the spot. Someone pulls in. That happened 3 different times.
Dang.
So I was finally able to get parking.
I have parking anxiety for sure. Like I hate if I go anywhere that has complicated parking, I'll just go home. Like I won't even
Or
mess with it.
street parking and parallel parking.
I hate
I will
street
not
parking.
do it.
I used to
And
have to do that for one of my jobs. I hated it.
the thing is, like there was a parking spot or two open, but the people were parking over the damn line.
Mhm.
Like even though it was slightly, I was like, if you already park like this, you're not gonna have any care for hitting my car.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna park next to you.
I
So
got
again,
I
I'm
got
just
some dings in
circling.
my door. I don't know who did it, if it was at work or if it was at the apartment complex, but somebody messed my door up.
What an asshole.
No note, no nothing. They just hit it and left.
Oh, so this was about a week or two ago. So I don't like being confronted by people. I mean, who really? Well, there's probably some people that do, but I don't. I go to Kroger's because I had to get a few groceries. I go in, I get what I need, and I'm walking out. Now, you've got like the door where you walk in and then the other door where you come out. So, and they had like a little, they'll have like stuff that's on display, or sometimes they'll have someone out there cooking,
Mhm.
just barbecue. Well, they had one of those like porch swings, you know, or
Yeah.
I guess not a porch swing, but you know what I mean. And there was a guy sitting out there, and he had like a camera, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just wait. And then he's like, "Hey, lady, can I film you to someone else?" And she's like, "Sure." And she like poses, and I'm like, "That's weird."
That
So
is
I just,
weird.
and he's like filming as she walks in. I'm like, okay, that's creepy. So I walk to my car, put my few groceries in. I take my cart back, and apparently he's in the vehicle right next to me, and he had followed me up there, and he's like, "Oh, I love your," because I've got my hat with all my pins. He's like, "Oh," and he's like, "Can I film you?" I was like, "No," and he still
No.
films me. I'm like, "Dude, don't film me," and I just flip him off. I do not want to be a part of some guy's spank bank film.
That's gross.
Like he's like, "Gotta film all the pretty ladies."
No, you don't. You can
Eh.
go home and get out of my face.
I'm just like, "Fuck off,"
That's.
and I just flip him off as I pull out. I'm
I
just
would
like,
have like
"Fuck
called the
you."
cops on him.
I thought about that after I got home, and I was like, I should have called the cops. But I just wanted to leave the situation.
Hey, I totally feel that. um, this week we'll have some like a positive note, I guess, because I'm getting my hair done this weekend.
Ooh.
Um,
What
my
you doing in your hair?
my coworker offered to do it for free.
Oh, nice.
Cause she's done her own hair before and it always looks amazing. So she's gonna do it in like a dark blue, and she said it fades to like a purple color.
Hmm.
It's really pretty. I think it's gonna be awesome when it's done.
I
But
look forward to seeing it.
she said 6 hours because we have to bleach it. So
Uh, yeah, that's not the fun part.
yeah, and I'm doing it at her house, and her whole family's gonna be there
That's awkward.
because she lives with her whole family. So like they'll all be there. She's like, "Come hungry, because my dad's gonna be making food, and he's gonna ask you if you want some." I'm like, okay. Oh, so anxiety.
Hmm.
I get anxious about the stupidest shit that like probably nobody else in the world gets anxious
I bet I can prove you wrong on that.
about. Well, I was talking to my mom yesterday, and I was like, Mom, I swear, like I have got to have like some kind of anxiety disorder, because like I feel like normal people, like neurotypical people, don't have this level. Like it's gotten so bad sometimes that I would just straight up not do the thing I'm supposed to do. Like I'll just go home and avoid it, basically. And she was like, "Well, you do have a diagnosis." I was like, "I do?" She was like, "Yeah, you got one when you were a kid for social anxiety." And I was like, "Okay." Like, is there anything that helps that besides Jesus? And she was like, "Therapy." And I was like, "Yeah, but I can't afford therapy right now." But
Yeah, their therapy is expensive.
it is. But what I was saying is like I don't know. Like I always get super nervous like anytime I'm going somewhere new and I don't know where it is. Like even if I have my GPS, just like the thoughts of like, you know, the car ride there and not knowing like what I'm looking for, or like when I pull up to the building and I have to go into the building, like once I get in there, where do I go? I hate that stuff. Like I think about that stuff a lot.
Oh, see, like for me, I have to look up and map out where I'm driving to. How are the roads? Is there an alternate route that would be easier? What
Mhm.
is the parking? I have to prepare myself like for days before driving to a new place.
I look at
Like,
Google Street View to like see the
yes.
outside of the building and see like the back side of the building. Like,
And then like if they've got like a Facebook page, like I look to see if they have like any updated photos because we know Google Street View is not always up to date.
yes, like I need to know. I need to have an X-ray of this building so I know exactly where I'm going. I'm
Like I
not.
have to have a full on like plan.
Yeah, like a map and everything. I don't know like what causes that, cuz like some people can just like they don't care. Like they don't think about that. They just show up
They
and
just
then
punch the address into Google Maps and just hope it takes them to the right place.
they just waltz into the building and they're just like, "Hey, where's this at? It's over there." I can't I
I don't
can't
think those
do
people
that.
actually exist.
I've seen people do it though. I've actually been friends with people that are just like, "Why are you being like this? Like just go ask." And I'm like, "No." I
That
don't
requires
want to.
communication with people we don't know.
They are a stranger. But anyway, it was.
Like
I feel
even
like it
when
was
I got
worse.
my even when I got my sun and moon tattoo, like even though I had drove there before, I still had to like look over it again just cuz I had hardly been there because of how their parking is.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
like have to
Parking
have
lots too. I look up
and in
those.
case it is street parking, I have to know what roads I can turn around on
Hmm.
or what way I have to go to like lap around the block in case there's one ways.
If it's too complicated, I won't go. I swear to you.
Oh,
It
I
took.
will find something alternate.
I will tell you this: when Joemi and I went to IFC,
Hmm.
if he had not been with me, I probably would not have gone because I would have had to drive by myself to Indianapolis,
Ugh.
and I was real, I mean, I'm glad he got to go with me. For some reason, he just makes me feel calmer in the car because he's so chill. He's like, it's no big deal. I'll help you. I'm like, I wish I had just an ounce of his chill.
What calming drug is he on? Because I could use it.
I know. I'm like, how are you not freaking out right now? And he's like, I don't know. Or like, and this man, my fiance, this man that I love dearly, I do not understand how his brain works, because like he has traveled to another country like 3 times, maybe even more than that, maybe like 3 to 4 times, and like does it like it's no big deal in all these different airports in all these different like states and countries, and I'm just like, how do you do this? Like, how do you not fumble and freak out and forget stuff? Because I do. Like, I'm terrified about my trip to the UK coming up in September because I'm going to Heathrow, which is the biggest airport ever, I think, in Europe or something. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, how am I going to function by myself?
Jeez.
I'm gonna do it. I have to do it. Because I feel like sometimes the only way to fight your anxiety is just to do it, and just, God, is it terrifying though?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Like
what other types of things besides driving do you have anxiety about?
cooking new recipes,
Really?
especially, well, in a way, because like it's like, oh, this sounds like it's gonna be so good, and then it's the whole, I could buy all this stuff, make this, and it come out horrible, and then it was just a big waste of money, a waste
That's
of
true.
time,
Yeah.
and it really, because I've had that happen a few times, and it makes me real nervous and upset to where I don't cook as much as I would.
That actually happened to me. Now that I think about it, I was making tofu and what was the other thing? I was putting it in something. Oh, I was trying to make like ramen. I know this might sound like some people listening might be like, "What are you doing?" But like, I thought it was gonna be not that bad, but it was. It was really bad. But
Did you?
I was trying to make ramen with tofu and egg in it. Like the what's it called? Soft boiled eggs
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
they put in ramen.
soft or medium boil is what they'll usually put in it.
So I had never done this before. I never made a soft boiled egg before. Those turned out okay. But everything else just went completely wrong. Like I tried using like I had my noodles and like broth and stuff, and I mean all the ingredients were there. Like I was loosely following a recipe. I had to substitute some things, but
Which that happens.
I had everything that it said. And when I put it all together and I tasted it, I about threw up. Like I could not eat it.
Mm.
I
Did you
threw
press
it
the
all.
water? Did you press your tofu before using it?
Yes, I did.
Did
I
you
did.
sear it?
Yes, I did everything it said to do,
Hmm.
but it did not taste how I've had like similar dishes before, like at restaurants and stuff. And I know like it's not going to be restaurant quality because I'm not a chef, but like I thought it would be somewhat closer than what it was. But what I ended up doing was I think I put too much like teriyaki or soy sauce on it. So I ended up like,
Hmm.
listen, this is so stupid. I threw away the tofu because it was nasty. And I ate the eggs. Those were okay. And then with the noodles and everything, I washed them in the sink. Like all the sauces and the broth and everything, I just washed it all off of the noodles and then just made it like one of those like cheap ramen packet things
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to waste it because I spent money on those, and I was like, well, I'll just make it, poor man's ramen. And
Hey, if it works.
yeah, so I could at least eat it, but I'm not making that ever again. That was gross.
That's what sucks when you follow a recipe and you feel like you have followed it really well, and then it's just so heartbreaking when it's like, is this just either really gross or have I messed up?
I will say though, I think Asian dishes are the hardest to get right. I mean, that could
Yeah.
just be me, but like my whole family are chefs. Like my grandparents and my parents, they all cook, and I know how to make some things. Like I can make Mexican food, I can make Italian, of course. I have to. It's a requirement. but
I feel
uh
like
but I
I
can't
feel like
make
Asian dishes are like the easiest and the hardest to make, like at the same
see
time.
like conceptually I can understand like okay, like they use green onions a lot and stuff and like sauces like soy sauce they use a lot. Conceptually I understand it, but actually cooking it and putting it together, it does not taste anything like what you get at the restaurant or like
Yeah.
what I've
I
had
s-
other people make. Like it tastes
yeah.
better. They make it way better. So cooking, driving.
uh Getting my blood drawn.
Really?
I have
What
this
about it?
irrational I have an irrational fear that causes me anxiety, that to the point where I cannot have blood drawn in my right arm or in my hands. I have just this irrational fear that somehow they're going to hit something or bust something and it's just going to fuck me up.
I mean, I have gotten stabbed a couple times by nurses trying to
Well,
find the
I think
vein.
mine comes from when I was younger. I used to have blood drawn like practically every week because they couldn't figure out why I would bruise so much. Like you would barely touch me and I would bruise.
hmm
And so I was getting blood drawn a lot. And there was this one nurse who was, new to phlebotomy. And I'm in like kindergarten or first grade. And she stabs my arm. Now I'm little, I'm sitting on my dad's lap. He keeps my eyes covered. And she stabs my arm, nothing. And then she wiggles it around and keeps stabbing and stabbing. And that whole area was just bruised up.
I feel like my anxiety was like I had similar like fears when I was a kid. Like not as much now, but like my mom told me a story one time where like I had to get a shot, I think, or blood drawn or something. And I was running around the office because I was trying to get away from the doctor because I would not like sit for the shot or whatever. And she said I had to have like three nurses and her hold me while they gave me the shot. But I mean, obviously, like I'm not running around screaming anymore. But like, I don't know.
I mean, hey, I can't prove that you're not running around screaming. So
Well, yeah. Now, I mean, so that's the weird thing. Like, you and I both have tattoos, so you'd think that you wouldn't have that fear.
tattoos don't go in as deep as
True,
shots.
true, but I mean, like the feeling, I guess, of needles. Like, we know what that feels like.
Honestly, I find tattoos relaxing.
I don't understand you for that,
Oh,
but
I'm
okay.
planning. I am planning my next one, and it's gonna be a more painful spot. And I'm just like, bring it on.
Are you getting a back piece?
No, I'm not that crazy.
I had that urge once. Let me tell
Oh
you.
no.
I was gonna get angel wings on my back.
I'm sorry.
But thankfully, my sense came back and I didn't do it.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be wanting to have to deal with those removal sessions.
I would say, like, the worst anxiety that I have. I've gotten better with the driving anxiety because I feel like now that I live in the city, like, I'm always having to drive in traffic and stuff, and I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it, but I've adapted since moving here. I have more experience now. But I think my social anxiety is the worst. Like I can't read people's social cues and it just makes me feel like really embarrassed and I just makes me not want to go outside of my apartment. Like, I'll give you an example. So, the maintenance guy had to come by my apartment a couple days ago. I had just gotten home from work. I was super tired. Maybe that was part of it, but you know, there is a stranger coming into my apartment to fix something. So already I was kind of like, "Ugh." But
Yeah, no, that's reasonable.
so he's fixing the door lock, and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of like mumbles a joke. Well, hold on, let me back up. So he's like, I said, will it affect the code now that you've changed the batteries? Because I have like an electronic lock or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, why don't you test it? And so I go over there and I shut the door to test it. And he was like, he said something like, you could have tested it with the door open, because if it didn't work, we would both be locked out. But the way that he said it, my brain did not like comprehend that he was like half joking, and like even what he said, like
Mm-hmm.
sentence wise.
Yeah.
And I just kind of was like, huh, yeah, like I didn't understand what he said until after he left, and then I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I just felt really embarrassed because I was like, man, he probably thought I was like fucking weird. But
Eh.
and not that it matters. I mean, I only see him whenever he's fixing stuff, but it's like just stuff like that. I've gone to like parties before, and like people are trying to like get to know me, and I'm like, whoa, buddy, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You don't know a damn thing about me, okay? I
now,
just, I don't know.
now, I like to do cosplay contests,
Yeah,
but the moment before I have to get on stage, I am filled with so much anxiety. Like, I'm just like, I could turn and run right now. I don't have to do this.
yeah. Getting on stage, like, I don't know how you've done that. I can't do it.
I'll tell you this, I had more anxiety getting on stage for cosplay contests than I did to actually sing in front of a bunch of people.
Hmm, how?
I don't know.
That's baffling. I've never heard of such a thing.
I know, considering I won't usually sing in front of my friends.
Yeah. Well, I don't either. Like, I can sing somewhat. Like, I'm.
Maybe it was the fact that they were all strangers and I knew like the only time I may ever see you guys again is if we're just at the next concert together next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care. I feel like that could have been it. Whereas with the cosplay contest, my friends and maybe a few other people I know, or I have a higher chance of seeing again, are in the audience.
See, I don't
I
like
feel like
I don't
that
like
could be it.
strangers looking at me. Like, well, like the post office. Like, I always felt like everybody's looking at me, and I'm like sweating, and I look like an idiot. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's almost like I feel like I'm gonna look stupid, and it's like entertaining to some people. You know what I mean?
Yes, I feel that. And for me, I can't stand going to the doctor. I feel like, except for my primary doctor, I feel like they're just standing there. And then when you leave, they're just like, oh my God, this bitch. And they just
Yeah.
gossip about you. They don't actually try to help you.
Judgment.
It's just the worst.
But at the same time, like I've also had instances where it's really not a big deal, and I was worried for nothing. I would say that happens more often than it actually being horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the anxiety itself is worse than what actually happened, if that makes sense.
I swear that's how it always goes.
Oh, I hate it. Well, and it makes me think, like, how would my life be different if I didn't have anxiety, like, this severely? Like, if I could just wake up and do things, like, what's that like?
Yeah, that'd be nice to know.
Because I overthink, like, the smallest things. Like, I misread jokes, and I miss social cues completely, and sometimes like people think I'm being rude, like they mistake me not understanding what they said for like I don't care, like I'm being a rude person. But like if anyone listening, if you've ever met me in person and I said something or like did something that seemed really rude, just know that's like hardly ever my intention. Like, usually it's just like something is not clicking in my brain and I didn't understand the situation. So I try to get out of it like as soon as possible, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just be like, "Huh, yeah. Okay, bye." You know.
Yeah.
Have you ever like had like really bad social anxiety where you feel like, people are like besides the doctor, where you feel like people are judging you?
Mm-hmm. Constantly. Like, I could be wearing a new outfit that I love, and I'm just like, I love this outfit. I look great. And it's something a bit different than what I would normally wear.
Mhm.
And then I'm just like, oh God, they're all just staring at me. I bet there's, and the problem of people always filming and then posting stuff like, look at this idiot and stuff like
Mhm.
that. The irrational fear of, I could go out in a dress and be like, I'm so excited. I love this. And then get on TikTok later and find out that I've become the latest internet joke.
See, yeah, I've actually had friends that have shown up in cringe compilations, Alex being one of them.
And
And
that's awful.
I know, I mean, it doesn't really bother him, like, he doesn't care, but if that happened to me, I'm actually surprised I haven't been in a cringe comp. Maybe I am, and I just don't know it. I don't know.
I mean,
But,
like, I fully expect it with my cosplay content on
yeah,
TikTok. So I'm just
yeah,
like, whatever. Because people do that all the time.
on TikTok, yeah. Well,
So I'm
people
just like,
always make
whatever.
fun of stuff on TikTok, too.
Yeah. Well, that and it's a sun cosplay. So, FNAF, cringe, cosplay.
Hmm.
I I just fully expect it.
Do you think that there are any I know anxiety sucks, but do you think there are any pros of having like anxiety, like overactive, I guess.
Well, like with driving, I feel like we're more prepared than just being like, all right, let's wing it.
Yeah. Safer,
And
maybe?
yeah, and with certain situations or emergencies, I feel like because we have disaster plans constantly going through our head,
Hmm.
that we're just like, I thought of this happening once. I'm prepared.
Yeah, like we spend so much time planning ahead, like what if this happens, that if it does, it's like, oh, I got this. uh, I think for myself, like it really prevents me from unfortunately doing a lot of things that I want to do. Like there's been a lot of things in my life where I'm like, oh, that would be cool if I didn't have anxiety to go do this thing. But at the same time, it has saved my life a couple times. Um, Mostly driving, I think, because like I've had moments, especially here in Austin, where like I've seen my life flash before my eyes, and I'm like, oh, I should stay in this lane and not try to like beat this person.
Yeah, like if I know, like even 3 miles from now, I have to make a turn in the left
I'm
lane.
gonna get in
I
that
will.
lane.
Yeah, because what if by the time you have to make your turn later, you can't get over there?
Oh my god, my dad does that where like he'll wait till the last minute and cut through 3 lanes of traffic. I'm like, no, stop doing that. It's so dangerous, especially here. Like, you can't count on anybody to brake quickly. Like,
Yeah,
don't do that. But I'm like you though. Like, I will be in that lane like 5 miles back, ready to go.
yeah. If you know that that lane in particular does not end, then go ahead and hop in it.
Hmm. And I've never really been a speeder. Like, I don't really
Hmm.
speed that much. Sometimes if I'm really emotional, I'll speed, but rarely. I mean, it
I think the only time I've really sped was driving back from Centralia at 3 a.m. and I'm super tired and really have to pee halfway through the trip.
I felt
And
that,
because
yeah.
it and because it's like 3 in the morning, I'm just like, I'm just gonna zoom and hope a cop doesn't see me.
Yeah.
Once I like actually get into Mount Vernon or West Frankfort, I'm just like, I'm gonna slow down because there are cops here.
I
All
just
right, I'm back
never
in the middle of nowhere. Time to speed up to 60 again.
I just never try to like compete with anybody. Like
No,
I'm
that's
not competitive.
stupid.
Like just if you got to poop, if there's somebody that you need to see or somewhere you need to go quickly, one you should have left earlier, and two you go right ahead and get pulled over cuz I'm going to stay
Yeah.
here.
I do feel like if you're speeding and it's not like a huge amount, like it's just enough over for a cop to pull you over, but not like horribly bad. I feel like if I ever get pulled over for it, it's gonna be because I'm almost home and I have to poop. That's gonna be when I get pulled over by a cop.
Do you have a sticker on your car that says that? I have to poop.
No, but I've thought of buying one.
Do it. Do it. Make it a rainbow one too. That says I have to poop.
Possibly. I'll have to
Oh,
see what my options are.
I I had a thought. Oh,
Hmm.
speaking of getting pulled over, there was this one time that I what how much time do we have? Hold on. Okay, we're still good. So, I got pulled over and this was a time in my life where looking back on the moment, I'm like I actually wasn't anxious in the situation like I normally would be because I was talking to a cop. Like usually
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty, like compliant when I'm talking to cops. But this one morning I got pulled over for being on my phone at a traffic light. Now, hold on a second. I was not quote unquote on my phone. I was checking the time because I was on my way to work and it was a red light. So the car was not moving. My clock in my car was broken, and I explained that to him. I said my clock is broken. I looked down for 1 second at a red light to check the time. That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't care, you still blah blah blah, and he wrote me a ticket for it for southbound use.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
stupid.
was like, I was mad. Like, normally I'm like, okay, officer, but no, this time I was like, man, fuck this guy. Like, I was not on my phone. It's not like I was texting.
Yeah.
I tapped
I
it. I literally like tapped the screen just to see the time. That's it.
I had to drive about 8 blocks. This was back in high
And he
school.
made me late for work, by the way, which I was also
Of
pissed
course.
about. So here I come walking in, and everybody, all my coworkers, are watching me like walk away from this cop. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, go ahead.
We had a big ice storm and my mom had me go to Walgreens. Now I was in high school and I had to drive about 8 blocks or so, give or take. So the roads had a good chunk of ice on them. So my mom had like way too much faith in my driving. And uh I get to Walgreens, no problem. Now I want to say my car at the time was tan, but my two rear view mirrors or
Mm-hmm.
side mirrors were red because I had lost the other two, one accident being mine, one being my dad. So as I go to leave, so I pull out of Walgreens and I turn to drive on a back road that takes me straight to basically straight to my
Are
house.
you talking about the Walgreens I think you're talking about?
The one in Heron, yes.
I hate getting out of there.
Well, instead of turning to Park Avenue, I turn and I go down 13th Street
Mm-hmm.
because then I just have to turn, one more
Yeah.
time and I'm at my parents'. Well, this cop pulls me over. so where I can pull over without, being in a big ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "We thought you were someone else." And I'm just like,
Who did you think I was?
"Okay."
That's
Well, then my
weird.
car, I go to, drive, and my car literally does a whole 180, and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm driving this way now." Like, that's how bad the roads were, and this cop thought, "I'm gonna pull over this teenager."
We thought you were someone else.
I've been pulled over in front of my own house. Now, I will say, I had went to Sonic to get food, and I did not have my seatbelt on. And this cop, I know. It's like the one time I didn't have it on.
Bad.
And this cop followed me. So it had pulled, onto the street, and I was a block away from my house because I had to turn and then turn one more time. And I'm like right there at my house, just zigzag around these houses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that, and he pulls me over as I'm pulling in front of my house. And I'm just like, "Hi."
Mm-hmm.
My husband walks outside and's like, "Did you get the food? Why is there a cop?"
Well,
And he let me off with a warning because I was already home. I was just like, "Woo."
Well, that's what happened to me is like I was already in the parking lot of my work, and he was like, "Why didn't you stop at the?" He tried to like stop me at the light we were at. I'm like, "Sir, this is an intersection. I can't just park it right here." And I was only like a
Yeah.
foot from my work, so I'm gonna go to work.
Yeah.
Like it's safer, but no, before I forget, I was gonna say too, when I was at the post office, I was wearing my Apple Watch. And one of the features that I like about it is it monitors your heart rate because I have high blood pressure, and it kind of helps me monitor like when I have spikes in my heart rate. So when I was in line, my Apple Watch starts like vibrating, and I look at the screen, and it's like your heart rate is like above 120 right now, beats per minute. And I was like, dang, like that's not good. So I think it was partially all the sodium that I had right before I went to the post office, but that's a helpful feature if you have anxiety because it tells you to calm down. But I had never seen it that high before. I mean, because my normal heart rate, like sitting, not doing anything, is like 80. Just to put it in perspective, it's like 80 beats per minute. So it was like
Yeah.
3 times that or whatever. I'm not good at math, shut up. But yeah, I don't like having anxiety.
I'm.
It also keeps us up at night thinking about things that probably don't really matter that much.
Yeah. All the dumb stuff from the past.
Yes. Things that we have no control over that have already happened. Mm. I had a nightmare last night, actually.
Oh.
Speaking of anxiety, so I've been researching all this airport stuff lately, like for my flight. And for those of you listening, it's a big deal for me because I've never left the country before. That's why I keep talking about it. But but anyway, so I had a dream that I was lost in an airport and I couldn't find the front door to get out of it, and it was terrifying. But that's just one example of like dreams that I've had where like all these irrational, like probably blown up fears that I have like manifest in dreams and stuff. But have you ever had a dream like that?
None I can think of off the top of my head. I know I've had some, but I just can't think of any.
Like something you've been thinking about or worrying about, and then it shows up in your dreams.
Yeah, I've had some stuff. I just can't think of any right now.
It's so annoying. I hate it. I woke up at 3 a.m. last night because of it.
Mm.
I was like, because I had to get up in 3 hours. I was like, no, I want to go back to sleep. But, anyways, we're about at our 1 hour mark.
Yep.
Let me see if I wrote down any other questions. And we kind of already touched on this before, but how do you think your life would be different if you didn't have anxiety?
Probably pretty boring, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Because I feel like part of the anxiety, like, for me, like with doing the cosplay contest, getting up on stage and singing with a group of people, it's kind of that thrill of being able to push past your anxiety.
That's true.
And
I
and sometimes because my anxiety allows me to remember like, a lot of areas like maps and how they look
mhm.
to an extent, not in a perfect way. And sometimes when I'm bored, I'm like, I'm gonna just think of a disaster scenario. What would I do? How could I get through? And it helps me get through like having to wait at a doctor's office and stuff.
You brought up a good point when you said that, like the feeling that you feel after you've conquered that anxiety. I will say that is definitely, it feels really good to me. Like after I came home from the post office, like I was so proud of myself, like I had everything prepared and
Hmm.
I felt
I mean, how boring must it be to be like, all right, gotta go to the post office, do this. All right, it's done. What's next?
I just wish like I wouldn't build it up so much like in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that is a downfall with it, but at least then when things are aren't as bad, it does give you that sense of relief or when you conquer things.
Mhm. Well said. Well, I think that's a good stopping point. A lot of my viewers have told me that they have anxiety or they have, stuff like ADHD and autism where like they might hyper focus more on like fears and worrying.
Mhm.
Um, so like if any of you feel comfortable sharing, your own experiences, you can always leave a comment down below, or just reach out to me. All my links are down there. I always like to read my comments because like a lot of people have similar experiences to me, and I enjoy like being able to help people with their own like I like hearing other people's experiences, but I also like giving my own experiences because people have found it helpful to their own situations and stuff. So it's a really cool perk to having a YouTube channel. But yeah, that's gonna about do it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.